All right. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for joining us again for another one of these Works with DW Spectrum series webinars. Today we're going to talk about video verification and an integrated false alarm reduction for the video verification market with our new technology partners at Calypsa. And we've got Brian Baker on the line and the team at Calypsa on the line. Brian, can you hear me all right?
Can hear you great. Thank you, Patrick.
All right. All right. Thanks for joining us this morning. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Calypsa and how it works with DW Spectrum?
Happy to do it. Thanks for the intro, and thanks to everyone who's on the webinar today. Really appreciate you taking the time to join us to hear a bit about Calypsa. I'm joined today by my colleague Tara Biglari, who runs the sales for the Americas for us, and also Usama Ashraf, who is the lead engineer who developed our technology integration with DW. A little bit about Calypsa. We exist to, as Patrick said, video verification and false alarm reduction. We were started back in 2016. The first commercial version of our product came out in 2018. And what we do is we filter false alarms from event-based video, be it camera-based analytics or other types of analytics that are on the camera. Sorry, I'm just lost my place there for a second. For other analytics that are on the camera, be it motion detection, video analytics, and other things. The first commercial release of our product was in early 2018. And since then, we've processed approximately 2 billion alarms for our 100 plus customers across 100,000 plus cameras. We do filter for the typical monitoring center application, which has been our primary business to date, more than 90% of the alarms that come in. And we filter out all the nuisance alarms, false alarms that are caused by things like spiders on the lens, changes in weather, changes in climate, etc. So a little bit about our platform. It's 100% cloud-based. We don't require any hardware, and we can upscale or downscale that on demand. There's no appliance on site. We just simply leverage the existing video infrastructure that's at a site, and we can literally set up a camera in about 60 seconds. Tara will show you the actual user interface of Calypso in a few minutes, and you'll see just how easy that is to do. So what we do is we remove false alarms. So a motion detection alarm or a camera-based video analytic alarm at the NVR level or at the camera level gets sent to the Calypso cloud. We process it in real time, and then we send it back to the operations center of the SOC to the operators. And what simply happens is that when Calypso is installed, you just see a significant reduction in false alarms that come into the center. And I've had customers, I've been with Calypso for about 7 months now, and we've had customers since I've joined tell me that we've changed their business because the monitoring and the operation centers have become so much more efficient and effective because they're just not dealing with thousands of alarms per night. So we are powered by proprietary deep learning algorithms. We started back in 2018, and as I said earlier, we've processed more than 2 billion alarms since we've introduced our commercial product. We process about 5 million alarms a night across 100,000 cameras. And what we do is we simply take that alarm packet from the camera or from the NVR, we process it in the cloud. It takes less than a second, and we send that back down to the operations center. And what the operators see is simply a packet that shows, as we see here on the left, a true alarm, which is, it's got a bounding box around it that shows that a human is walking on a construction site. We look for vehicle movement and human movement, and we filter out the rest. So on the right-hand side, you can see that the changes in lighting in the clouds or whatever the shadows are there, that we're filtering that out. We're not alarming on that, or we're not detecting that as a true alarm. So we filter out those false and nuisance alarms. What you see in the images here on the left and the right, there's a reddish hue on the left, and that's masking. So on that road, for example, on the left side of the true alarm, when there's cars coming down that road, and in the background you can see in the cross street cars coming, we filter those out so those don't generate any alarms whatsoever. Let me go backward a little bit just to make sure that everybody has the previous slide. So just to go backward a little bit, this is generally how Calypso works, and I explained this before, but we will take a motion detection or a camera-based analytic alarm from the NVR directly from the camera. We process that by sending it up to the Calypso cloud. We process that alarm typically in less than a second, and then we send back the filtered alarms directly to the operation center of the SOC. And we can move to the next slide now.
When you say you take a motion event or a triggered event, how much video do you need to take up to the cloud to process?
Yeah, great question. Great question. It's configurable. Typically, we'll use our typical alarm packet. We only need 3 frames of video to do a verification, but we have integrations that will vary anywhere from 1 to 6 frames per second or not per second, 1 to 6 frames total is pretty typical. And some integrations that we have will send us a very short video alarm packet. And when Usama shows you the integration plugin, that's actually configurable from Spectrum. We can configure how many frames you send us to verify the alarm. So very low bandwidth. It's all cloud-based. So we've had to design the product to be very low bandwidth.
So now we're at
and that's really where our intellectual property is it's the ability to do neural network AI analysis on a very small number of frames of video. So this slide is where we got stuck before. What I gave an explanation. I apologize that the slides weren't moving, but it gave the explanation earlier. On the left side, what you see is a Calypso processed alarm where we see a human walking in that construction site. And on the right-hand side, you can see the shadows and other lighting changes that are happening that we would not present as a true alarm. We'd filter that out as a false alarm. And also what I mentioned here was that the red hue that you see around there is a masking that can be done in Calypso so that we filter out portions of the field of view that you don't want to detect any alarm activity in, such as the road that's in the background. So this is what the Calypso dashboard looks like. It's a web-based, as we are a fully cloud-based product, it's a web-based dashboard. Tara will walk you through this in a few minutes, but just quickly what this shows is it shows the statistics at both it's a hierarchical dashboard that you can look at a total operation, or you can go down to an individual site and you can see the alarm that are filtered out over time. So in this particular example, we've processed about 10 million alarms. We filtered out 90.99% of those over 145 hours. And the blue shading shows that the alarms that we've presented as true alarms, and the red shading shows the alarms that we've filtered out, that we've removed. And as I said before, what happens in the SOC or in the control center is that the operator just simply sees fewer alarms. We do have these alarms stored in the Calypso cloud for 30 days on a first in, first out basis, but the alarms that we present to the operator will only be the true alarms. Next slide, please. So I talked a little bit about the masking in the earlier slide. This just shows the configuration of it. And we also have some automated reports so that in your inbox every morning, you could see an automated report that shows on a site level or at a high level, total enterprise level, the alarm monitoring performance and filtering performance that we did over a period of time that's configurable. So really, we've talked about some of the benefits already, but operators only receive the true alarms, and we can scale up or down on demand. So, we have customers who ask us when we come in, they say, well, we've got 1,000 cameras. What happens if we, take over, particularly for our monitoring customers, if we take over some additional sites and we want to add 1,000 cameras tomorrow, can we do that? We can scale up very quickly. There's no issues with capacity in the performance of Calypso because it's all cloud-based, and we can scale up or scale down on demand. One of the things that really I think is a key benefit here too is that I said before that I've had customers tell us that we've changed their business. And one of the things besides the operational, the ROI and the operational benefits that our customers have seen is really that person sitting at the console looking at alarms all night long. It really has changed the ability for those folks to really have a better job and working environment, and the morale. It's something that customers have told me time after time that it's a benefit that while we don't always talk about it, it's an important one because it really has improved their business and improved their ability to attract and retain talent in those operating centers. Next slide, please. So our primary focus through 2020 was central monitoring stations, and we have more than 100 customers that are central monitoring stations, including some of the large global folks. But we've also moved into with our integrations, such as the integration with DW, works with DW, moving more into the corporate security space. We're working with healthcare and education customers right now, and a big part of our existing base with our alarm monitoring customers is in the construction industry, and we have this whole spectrum of customers that use Calypsa in one way, shape, or form. Next slide, please. Just a quick case study. Acadian, a big monitoring company, they're a 5-diamond certified central station, is a customer of ours. And quite simply, the case study is when Acadian turned on Calypsa, they eliminated 99% of the alarms that were coming into their monitoring center. They reduced their false alarm rate by 99% when they turn this on for their downstream customers. So it allows them to really have better crime prevention. The real purpose for monitoring video is to make sure that we know what the interesting bits are that are happening in that video and understand when there's a real event that we need to respond to. And Acadian has seen that benefit in very real time and continues to expand their use of Calypso across their customer base. I said before that we're being used by some of the largest names in security. So G4S, Prosegur, and Securitas. We have global arrangements with these 3 companies, not using them in all countries, but we are using them in many countries with these 3 very large providers, in addition to nearly 100 other customers that we have around the world, mostly in the UK, the US, and my good friend Glenn Patrizio in Latin America lit up our first customer for us at the end of last year. Next slide. So the way Calypso works is we can integrate it in 2 ways. So what you don't see on this slide, you'll see on the next slide is DW, because this is where we have direct camera integration. So this group of cameras on here, we've done a direct camera integration. We're taking alarms directly from the camera, sending it to the Calypso cloud, and then send it back down into the monitoring platform that the customer is using. The other way, on the next slide, is we have integrated with these platforms. So Digital Watchdog is our newest integration. Spectrum is our newest integration, and really this is our coming out party today. We're launching it. It's available. It can be tested. It can be used, and we'll show you how that works in a few minutes. But we also have integrations with these other VMS and central monitoring station platforms. Next slide, please. So the way it works specifically with Digital Watchdog is we're taking an alarm, and essentially what we're doing is we're capturing it from the alarm queue in Digital Watchdog. We're sending in Spectrum. We're sending it up to the cloud, to the Calypso cloud. We're processing it, and then we're sending it back down to the alarm queue in Spectrum. So what's happening is we have the ability to intercept that alarm, process it, send it back down, and only show the true alarms to the person on the other end of the system who's got Spectrum operating in their control center. Next slide, please. So now what we'd like to do is I'll, Patrick, if you could, Usama showing us the actual integration to DW and how it works with DW.
Alrighty, thanks, Brian. Can you guys see my screen?
We can.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. All right, so yeah, just gonna give you guys a high-level overview of the Calypso dashboard and what it can do. So first things first, this is kind of the main page of the dashboard. So this is the first thing you'll see when you'll log into your Calypso account. So you'll get kind of a high-level overview of the number of clients, sites, and cameras you have connected. We'll give you some insights based on your selected time frame to tell you, how many alarms you've processed, how many we've filtered out, what that percentage of reduction is, and roughly how much time we've saved your operators. That's based on some industry report that we did. So if you scroll down here, this is kind of like an activity chart. So in blue is the total alarms we've processed, and in red is everything we filtered out. So it gives you a good visualization of how we've been performing. And if you keep scrolling down, we'll give you some more insights. So we've got an idle camera report. So here we'll let you know when's the last alarm you've received from your cameras. And if you scroll down, we'll give you a list of your top 5 most alarming sites. So this is another great place to get some further insights into, maybe which cameras need to be masked or need to have some schedules added to them. So the next page is the client page, and here's where you would come in to draw some masks. So this is a great place to come in and, outline some areas where you want us to ignore the camera view. So for example, here, you could just easily block off parts that you're not really interested in monitoring. And once you click save, we'll just ignore absolutely everything in that red area. Other things you can do are removing the vehicle detection option. So if you toggle this, we can basically, ignore vehicles. So you can kind of select what you want Calypso to flag for your operators. Next thing is the alarms page. So this is where you can really come in and actually see the alarms Calypso has processed. So here are just some classic false alarm examples. So something in the mast region triggering the motion detection, just something moving that's obviously not a person or vehicle. This kind of light coming on. So this is like a really good example of the kind of stuff Calypso is really good at filtering out. And here are some examples of true alarms. So as you can see, I mean, we can barely see this person in the frame, but Calypso still flags that as human activity. So we're really good at getting, tricky situations of when a person comes into the frame. And then when they're fully in the frame, you can also see how we work with that. So we'll put this kind of bounding box around the area of interest, and you will get these in DW as well. So it really helps your operators flag, when a real event happens. It will easily draw them to what set off Calypso. Show you guys a few more true alarms. So again, like vehicle motion, we'll just put the box around it, and you can fully customize what this looks like as well. So we've kind of selected this color, but you can pick any color that works for your operators. So that is the alarms page. The last thing I want to show you guys is the reporting. So this is a place where you can come in and run reports to get the actual statistics of how Calypso has been filtering alarms on each camera. So we'll give you this kind of activity chart, which will, again, help visualize specifically for each camera how we've been working. But if you scroll down, you can download this all into a CSV, and it'll give you a full breakdown of the total alarms we've received on each camera versus, the amount we filtered out. So again, just a great place to get, run reports and get a better sense for how Calypso is performing on a camera by camera basis. And finally, if you go to automatic report, this is what Brian mentioned earlier. You can easily, in a couple seconds, set up a report based on a specific client, a specific site, or just everything you've got connected to Calypso. So for example, if you click select everything, next, you can say, every morning I want a report into my inbox at 9 a.m. New York time. And you could easily just select that with the results from the last 24 hours. Just pop in your email address. You can add as many as you want, and then you can call it, like Calypso daily report. And once that's set up, you'll get a nice PDF to your inbox every morning with a nice visualization, like a mini dashboard based on the cameras you've selected, and just a full list of the amount of alarms we filtered out. So that's kind of the gist of the Calypso platform. We've got a lot more in here. Like we've got a really great help center we've launched recently, which has a ton of frequently asked questions, more insight into our product roadmap, how it works behind the machine learning scenes, and just a bit more information here. And we've got, a place where you can come and manage users, change your settings. You can select if you want it in light mode. There's a lot of kind of fun extra features you can benefit from in the Calypso platform. But main point is we're trying to keep it pretty simple and really have it as like a value added tool in your monitoring operations, so that you're doing all your monitoring in Spectrum, but you're using Calypso as a separate tool to just refine the cameras you have connected, draw masks so we can reduce the alarms even further and just kind of really build on what we're doing within Spectrum. So that is everything. I'll stop sharing my screen now. And
all right, hi everybody. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, can you make it full screen, Usama? It's just a very small window.
It's
the application full screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. All right. How about now?
There you go.
All right. Looks good. Okay, so the way that Calypso integrates with Spectrum is we've developed a piece of software which is essentially like a plugin, and that gets installed essentially exactly wherever your Spectrum instance has been installed, and it becomes a part of the VMS itself. And the installation, by the way, is a very simple process. We have a great support team to help people out with that, but it essentially takes under 2 minutes. It's basically copy pasting one file and then restarting your media server, and that's it, which takes like under 30 seconds. Once you've done that, if you open up or rather reopen your Spectrum client, you'll be able to, there you go. Within Spectrum administration screen, you'll be able to see Calypso's false alarm filtration plugin listed here with a bunch of configuration items. So some of these are connection details. Some of them are basically how the plugin interacts with our cloud-based programs, and the number of frames that you want to send per event, the gap that you'd ideally like to have between each of those frames, and other connectivity information, like if your server is located in a low internet area or something like that, you might want to increase that timeout or the number of tries and stuff like that. If, by the way, connection to the cloud fails, we by default mark that particular event as true, and that also gets generated as a plugin diagnostic event. So operators on board will be aware of that immediately, and take steps to alleviate that particular issue. The authentication token field is essentially the value within this field, excuse me, is essentially all you need to get things up and running. So once we have provided you with a copy of the plugin files, this authentication token will be provided to you with that, and essentially this is what we use, the cloud program uses to identify specific customers and to map them to their cameras and sites, which are stored on our database as well. With that, we can enable and disable the plugin for specific cameras as well. So let me show that too.
So basically what he's doing here is once you've installed the plugin, so the first slide or the first area that he showed within the system administration is the plugin being installed and set up and the license is activated. Once that plugin is installed in Spectrum, so that's a new feature in 4.1 is this plugin architecture, and that's how Spectrum is an open architecture solution so that companies like Calypso can develop plugins for Spectrum. You can install them within the system. So Usama has installed it within our demo system here in our office in Tampa. And so the system there in Tampa now has the plugin installed, and that's what you saw on the system administration screen. Now he's gone to the camera settings, and there's a new tab that will only show up once you've installed that plugin, is a plugin tab. And so now he's going to configure and activate the plugin for this particular camera.
Right. So because of thanks very much for that, Patrick. So because of the open architecture, we have the leverage of selectivity. So you can enable the plugin for specific cameras and not have it enabled for other cameras. Once you do enable the plugin for a particular camera, it gets automatically populated on our end as well. So this is the alarms page for that particular camera. This one was pre-populated. So as you can see, alarms start coming in as soon as we basically do this, right? So this particular false one, if you guys notice, there's a little bit of shadow movement on the hood of this car, but it's not being picked up because it's not considered a true alarm, as Brian explained earlier on. Something like this is much different. A lot of vehicle movement going on. Again, all of this happens automatically. All you have to do is enable the plugin for that particular camera, and things start rolling on our end. As soon as you do that. Also, within the VMS, you'll start seeing corresponding events, analytics events that will get populated on all these tabs on the right panel, which includes specific the bounding boxes that Calypso identifies for each of those events. So right now we've configured it in such a way that the plugin responds to motion events. We can change that. We can even, with low resolution cameras and stuff like that, we can even have it sort of live streamed whereby we're picking up most of the feed that we get from the camera rather than picking up only what the VMS considers a motion event. And of course, like other analytics events, yeah, there you go. So there you see the bounding boxes that our AI has drawn. This is essentially the same thing that you'll see on our dashboard, which you see here. And so when you have the plugin installed, you'll essentially be looking at the operators will essentially be interested in these two tabs, the objects tab and the events tab. And if there are like network issues and stuff like that, these are unrelated to the plugin, by the way, but if there are issues with the plugin itself, you'll see diagnostic events here. So the plugin is generating essentially analytics events and diagnostic events. And for those of you who are, for those who might be more accustomed to the various configurations of Spectrum, you'll probably know by now that just like other analytics events and stuff like that, you can, for specific cameras, you can configure actions that you want to perform against Calypso's 2-alarm analytics event and plugin diagnostic events. For example, showing desktop notifications and sending out notifications, sending out mobile push notifications and all of that stuff. Again, the plugin installation process takes under 5 minutes normally. And once you enable it for specific cameras, they automatically start getting populated on our backend, where you are, where all of essentially the stuff that Tara showed you earlier is available, for consumption. That is me.